Welcome to Eggcellent Adventures, where I, your host Reec Swiney, take a step away from my duties as a radio and TV personality and give you a first-hand look at my other love, BlackYard Chickenz and homesteading. Take a listen to conversations I have with others who are in farming, homesteading, and connected brands. And some of those conversations go a little like this.
She does say I have too much, though. She says I have too many, but I don't think I have enough.
The chicken math started mathing.
Yep, it's never ending.
I only started with like 4 laying hens. Now I have over 100 chickens and geese and quail.
So the first question we ask everybody that comes on to the Eggcellent Adventures, what was your old cluck moment?
The first thing that comes to mind is when the first time I got locked inside one of my own chicken coops.
We talk about the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Now let's see who's on this episode of Eggcellent Adventures. We are back with another Eggcellent Adventures. We have a person who is saving chickens one, I guess, drumstick at a time. I don't even know how to put that, but we'll just leave it like that. We have Erica right here of Second Hen'd. Met her through another one of our guests who is a very, very, very close friend of the show, COVID Cluckers. And now we have the pleasure of bringing her onto the show to talk about her 501c3 nonprofit organization that is saving these beautiful hens and rehoming them and giving them a second chance at life, or I guess a leg up or a wing up, however you want to put it. Without further ado,
a whole life.
There we go. A whole life up. Erica, what's going on?
Not much. I'm it's muggy and nasty and hot right now, so I'm actually happy doing this inside instead of being out with the chickens.
Okay. You guys are in the Midwest. You're in Missouri?
Yep.
Cool.
So, I mean, I guess geographically it's not an armpit, but it does feel like one.
Just because of the humidity.
Yes, it's awful.
Cool. I had a couple of great visits there with another organization who was also 501c3, Clippers and Cops. We visited some schools, and I got to visit the Purina farm while I was out there. So I had a great time in Missouri. So
yeah.
Pretty
It's
awesome.
fun if you know who to hang out with.
There you go.
Put it that way.
Now I know one more person. Now I know I can hang out with you next time, visit your coop.
Yes.
All right, let's get into it. The first question we ask every time is like, what was your old cluck moment? What was that moment you said, okay, I'm really a chicken person or a chicken mama now?
I mean, I've taken my chicken with me to vote. And she actually got her own sticker. But I mean, that was maybe after the fact that I already knew I was a chicken person. But I mean, that was when I was like, okay, this is happening. Like, my chickens go with me wherever they can.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
What was that like? I need to know more detail now. Like, were people oohing and ahhing? Were they turning heads? Was she turning heads? What chicken did you bring? What breed was it? Are they conservative, liberal? I need to know.
Okay. Well, I would say she's a hen dependent.
Okay. I like it.
Yes. And I actually have a t-shirt that it's like Republican, Democrat, independent. That's what we are. So she was in, I had a little carrier backpack and the polls were about to close. And I was like, I got to do this thing. So my chicken, she's coming with me because we just come back from, she was getting a checkup at the vet and it was a super hot day. I wasn't going to be that person and leave her in the car.
Gotcha.
So I was like, all right, they can turn me away or not. But honestly, everybody loved it. I took Blossom with me. She's usually the one that goes with me most places.
Gotcha.
And she is one of the spent ex-commercial ladies. So she's a white leghorn.
Got you. I think I've seen a few reels with Blossom in it.
Oh, you've probably seen so many. She's she's like, she loves the camera.
There we go. I love it. You got to have that one chicken that's not camera shy.
Yes.
Yep.
And she's bold, and thankfully her personality really comes out whether you're recording her or not. So she's kind of our little spokeshen. Yeah.
So does she help, like when you have those? I know a lot of times I have the same, like a carrier backpack is see-through. And when people see it, that sparks the conversation and I'm able to tell them about our animal rescue, which you have as well. Tell us about that. Like, what are some of those conversations or how do those go?
So usually, I'd say more often than not, she's not in the carrier backpack. That was just because we had gone to the vet.
Gotcha.
Usually what she's in is her purple stroller. And so that's what catches people's attention. And then they're expecting to see like a cat or a dog. And so they walk by, they realize it's a chicken, and then they do like a double take. And we've actually had people like run all the way back screaming like, "Oh my God, it's a chicken. Can I see your chicken?" And so that is the perfect opportunity because they start asking questions. It's usually they start asking questions. I don't really have to say much. They're like, "Oh, why is this chicken in a stroller? What's its name?" And then I can kind of get into, well, her name is Blossom. She's an ex-commercial egg-laying hen. She goes with us all the time on these walks. She enjoys it. She loves it. What we actually do a lot of times is we will kind of end the walk. Or we take a break in the park. There's a lot of space there. Like these are true free range chickens, right? Like she gets the whole park area to just go and run and play in the grass. I mean, she stays close by, but it's really cute. People will either see us in the stroller or they'll see her out in the grass playing. And then they just come over and start asking questions. And then that's kind of our segue into second Hen'd. This is what we do. And she's actually one of these birds. And now I've had her for almost 5 years. So her group was only about 2 years old when they were scheduled for retirement, which means they're going to be killed and they don't use them for anything. And so, yeah, I've had her for almost 5 years now. And she's just like, my goal is for each of my spent girls, I try and look at every day as a new opportunity for adventure.
Yes.
And to give them something that will help erase another memory of the past, to kind of cancel that out. So if I can make it, I always try and say, if I can give them a good life for at least as long as they were in the cages, then I feel like I'm doing something right. I know that's not always possible, but for the most part it is. And so, especially with Blossom, she was in pretty rough shape when we first got her. So she did need a lot of around the clock care.
I can imagine.
So her and I just really bonded. I ended up keeping her, and she's just kind of decided like she likes humans better than her chicken friends. So
it might be because of circumstance too, because a lot of those egg farms or egg production, they're sitting on top of each other in cages. It's very unpleasant for the bird, and then their interaction with other birds is like usually just pecking or
they're
not
crammed together.
Mm-hmm.
And with her, she is one of the ones. The only ones that we get are the ones that come from the cages. And so, I mean, she should honestly not like humans because the human interaction that she had, I mean, it was limited, but what there was very negative and rough.
Picking up by the legs. I've seen it. I've seen
they grab them by the wings. They just I've seen, now not with the egg producer we work with, but I have seen stuff where and I don't think it's actually the people that work on the farm. It seems like it's more the people that transport the birds. Yeah. But I have seen after they've unloaded them, there've been like legs and wings still left behind because they're just like, well, they're going to die anyway. They don't care how they handle them. And there's so many, they just have to work their way through. And I'm like, I can't. So we handle these birds very gently. I mean, it may take us a little longer to get through them when we get a batch, but we are very, very
We've reached that part of the show where we hook you up with some insider information, and this time it's some egg side information. Y'all know what I mean. Because people ask me all the time, how do you get your chickens so fluffy and healthy and happy? And their eggs are so bright, beautiful, and they taste delicious too. I would love to dedicate all those things to me coming in and having a great time in that chicken coop every day and shaking it up with those ladies, but the fact is, it comes from a healthy and balanced diet of Purina's Layina. That's the brand we use. Whether you've got laying hens and you want to go with the Purina Layina plus omega-3, or you got a bunch of baby chicks running around in your brooder and you go with that Purina Start and Grow Crumble, you can't lose. I know we haven't. So visit their website today, and in 3 easy steps, you can get discount coupons for the Purina product that's right for some great nutrition for your animals. I did it myself and it only took me about 2 minutes. It's absolutely worth it. And to make things easier, we have the hyperlink on our website, BlackYardChickens.com. Just look under product of the month and you'll see the link right there to go and try your Purina Feed Greatness. And through their trial program, they can pair you with the right nutrition and let you try it with your animals and see the results. Now, I can tell you all day how Purina Feed Greatness has been absolutely phenomenal for my chickens, goats, ducks, and rabbits. But you can see for yourself. Go to BlackYardChickens.com. Now let's get back to this week's adventure.
we go out of our way to make sure that we are handling them carefully and in a way that they feel safe, so they know that we are not like the people that they just knew for the last couple years.
Are you saying you actually care about the chickens?
I do.
That's why
They're
you're
my
here.
babies. Yes.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I really appreciate that conversation, because we the general consumer, or the general person, they see chickens, like you said, you're walking around in a stroller and Blossom's running around in the park, and people are like, oh my God, that's a chicken. This is cool. Let me ask you some questions. But then that same person doesn't actually realize you're getting eggs probably from the grocery store, and those same type of birds are being what I would call mishandled, or treated in a very, very monstrous way.
Yeah.
Right. You got debeaked birds. You got birds that don't have any feathers, or maybe lice or mite infested, because they're sitting with 100 other birds.
Parasites.
Parasites, all type of stuff, malnourished. And I was watching something the other day, and it said these animals don't have the concept of life expectancy, which I could say that could be true. I don't know that, because I don't know what they're thinking. They don't talk. Right. But I would assume it probably doesn't have an idea of life expectancy, but quality of life, they do understand that. And with you giving that care, I can see why you can let a chicken loose in the park and it will come back to you.
Oh yes. And they're like, you don't need a leash for her or anything. I'm like, no, she knows what she's got. She knows she's got it good. Like she comes right back. And I mean, honestly too, it gets that conversation started, because like you said, at the store, right, people do, and I give people credit, right, because they see these birds in that condition and they're like, oh no, caged eggs, the cheap eggs, well, I'm going to pay more for cage free then, or free range. And it's like, but let me tell you, right, like it and so it starts that conversation as well, because they don't realize that even like pasture raised, right, I mean, I'd say if anything, that's going to be, I guess, the most ethical that you get, but still those birds at 1 to 2 years old are going to be sent off to slaughter, because they hit that first molt. And so for 2 to 3 months, they're not going to be productive. They don't want to pay to feed them and take care of them while they're waiting for them to start laying again. Right. Like, and most of the people that we talk to, and that's why we put spent in quotes, because it's a very misleading term. So when people find out that these birds are really only 1 to 2 years old, especially people who know chickens and know how long they can live, they're in shock. They're like, what? But those are still babies. And we're like, yeah. And they get rid of them because they hit that first molt.
Right.
And if there is anything though that I will, I guess kind of I don't know if it's give credit to at least the egg producer that we work with, but also a reason that it's beneficial to add some of these birds to your flock is, so in that big industry, right, they're concerned about money. So preventing outbreaks is more cost effective than dealing with them. So these birds are like highly vaccinated. Like it's not something like if you decide you want to start with chicks, or you go get some birds for, fancy breeds for your backyard. Right. You can't just roll into your vet and be like, hey, vaccinate them, please, for all this stuff that's out there.
Mercs or something. Yeah.
Even your most well-connected vet is not going to have access to those vaccines, because those are reserved for the big commercial industries, because that's where the money is. So adding these birds, or if you don't have chickens and you want to start out, adding some of these girls is a good thing, because all those boxes are checked. Like they're highly vaccinated. So they're very protected from a lot of the really bad stuff that's out there. So, it does take some work, but I kind of equate it, I guess, for people who don't know chickens like they do cats or dogs, and they're trying to figure out, well, what kind of condition do these birds come in? Because you can show them pictures and you can, say, oh, they're really shy and they're scared of everything. But with time and love, they come around. It's really similar to, I'd say, like cats that come from a hoarding situation, or dogs that come from puppy mills, and there's so many success stories of those going on to be great pets, so it's even in like a couple weeks, a month's time, they look and act like totally different birds. And for me, I think one of the most rewarding things about doing this work is seeing those personalities develop, because they really are just like these hollow shells.
Hmm.
When you get them, they haven't had a chance to figure themselves out, right? And so now that they can do all these things, they've touched grass for the first time, they've
Right.
breathed fresh air and felt sunshine and the dirt on their feathers. Like they weren't even able to stretch before.
Hmm.
And now all of these things, you see them testing their little boundaries and figuring out what it is to chicken. And it's really cute. It's very sweet.
It really is. And once you see, like, you get some of these birds and they start growing their feathers back and
Hmm.
get all of their feathers in, and then they're able to scratch around in that dirt. You just see them open up. And I
Yeah.
love the name Blossom, because that's basically like
Yes.
an epitome of what it is they get to blossom.
And I tell people that she is the most amazing blossom that ever blossomed.
I would agree.
Yes.
I would
She
agree.
and she know it. She's cute. She's like, "Hey."
How did you get started with chickens? And did you grow up with it, or something you came into and then you started to rescue, or you saw one that needed rescuing and then it triggered everything?
So, I am an only child, and I grew up on a farm where the animals were not there to be my friends. They were
Hmm.
there for food, but I didn't have siblings to play with, so the animals became my friends. Um, and then every so often, one of my friends, their time would come,
Hmm.
and I would beg for their life and get told no. And then a couple hours later, I'm being told, "Hey, here, eat your friend."
Right.
So that was very traumatic for me. And I think, because I mean, that happens like every
Hmm.
day that,
Yeah.
people are raised like this. And you can either, I think, continue on and do that yourself, or I think it kind of pushes people the complete opposite way, which is what it did for me.
Got
And
you.
so I knew, I want to do things with animals. I always really, really connected with the chickens and the cats. Like those were my absolute favorite.
Mm.
Um, but my son, he ended up having really bad allergies to cats. And I used
Mhm.
to do a lot of stuff with cats, but I don't anymore because of him. And I did kind of reach a point too where I realized, cats and dogs, they have so many advocates because they are
Mhm.
commonly accepted as pets and companions.
True.
And
Yes.
so I I knew in my adult life that I wanted chickens, but I was in the military, so stationed overseas, living in barracks, not even having my own place, that wasn't possible.
Got
And
you.
then when I got out of the military, same thing, living in apartments or a place where we couldn't have them. And it wasn't until 2016, and we'd had our first house for a while, um, but they changed the laws because the rule used to be you could only have 4 animals, period. So like if you had
Mhm.
2 cats and dogs inside to equal 4, you couldn't have chickens.
Got you.
And
Okay.
so once that changed, it lined up right around the time that I was graduating from college. And I
Okay.
was like, okay, my gift to myself is going to be finally getting these chickens. And I prepared. Now, I did start with chicks,
Hmm. Okay. How
which
many?
I only 4, right? I was
Okay.
like, 4, easy, no problem, right? I just want my 4 chickens. That's all I want.
Right.
4 happy, healthy chickens.
Hmm.
I got an oops rooster.
Hmm.
Um, I lost one early on. Like we still don't even know why. She just got
Mm.
really sick and passed away. Um, and then I had the remaining 2.
Hmm.
And I was just like, man, chicks are a lot harder than I remembered.
Hmm.
But that's because growing up on the farm, the mama hens hatched and raised the chicks. We
Got
weren't
you. Yeah.
really involved. Like we played with them, she would let us. And
Hmm.
then as they got older and became independent, that's more of when they wanted anything to do with me.
Hmm.
And so I was like, damn, this is hard, like I don't
Yeah.
I don't like this. They're too vulnerable.
You're
And
brooding. Yeah. You're the mom.
right. And my son, of course, his favorite was the one that ended up being the rooster. So
Right.
he was absolutely devastated when we had to find a home for that one because
Hmm.
we can't have roosters in the city.
Got you.
So I was like, yeah, no, this sucks. And so from then on, I was kind of like, well, if I know I want my 4 chickens, right? Like that was my goal,
That's your
4
number.
chickens. And it was like, how do I do this? I was like, well, maybe I'll find some that I can adopt somewhere. I want adult chickens. I want to know they're already girls. And let me see if I can save them from a really bad situation.
There you go.
And so I started researching and I couldn't find anything. But then in that research, I saw what they do over in the UK with these ex-commercial, these spent hens, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. I want these chickens. Yes, this will make me feel fulfilled. So then I changed my search to try and find some, and I was willing to drive. I was willing to take a trip, like go somewhere and get chickens from, that situation.
Wherever you need to go. I have one
find
question.
anything. Yeah.
I want to ask you, when you researched what was going on in the UK, right? And you found out what they did with the spent hens. Did you find that they were rehoming them, or what they were doing was discarding them, and then you wanted to stop that from happening here?
Both.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
what I noticed was, and this is what makes me like feel like we're very behind here.
Yeah.
Because in the UK, they have been doing this for years, and there's so many organizations that do it. And I mean, they are spread all the way across. Like you can live anywhere and just be like, hey, I want some birds. And there will be a place that's doing it, easily accessible to you.
Wow. Okay.
And it's to the point where the farmers now and the places that the birds are held, they actually reach out to these organizations. And so let's say, because they have built such a good relationship, right? And there's trust there. And so they could reach out on, let's say, like a Thursday afternoon and be like, hey, we got 5,000 birds. We need them gone by this weekend. Do you want them? And they're like, oh, yes, let's call up all our resources. We have volunteers. We have a waiting list. We got the transport. We got we've got the cages to put them in. And all those birds have homes by that weekend. And I'm just like, because over there, chicken keeping is much more, I guess, much more common. It's more of a thing. And a bunch of the people that have chickens over there have these spent hens because there was, I think it was Jamie Oliver. He's a big name over there. I think he's one of the like chefs or something. Like he's really well known. So he didn't really know about the industry, right? And he did some special segment on what happens, and people over there were outraged. There were protests, people signing petitions. Next thing you know, laws are changed. And I'm like, oh, that must be nice, right? Like if only that could happen here, like with anything, right? It's like, and we're so behind. And so I was like, there has to be something like that, here. And I couldn't find anything. And I just was like, you know what? Fine. I'm gonna do it myself. And it started out originally as me just wanting to like find an egg producer that would give me some birds for myself and maybe a few friends. And even then, like, I mean, it took 2 years for me to find someone that would work with us, because they either wanted money for the birds, which I was very like, nope, not going to do it. Yeah. Because like that money will go right back into the machine, right? Like, and that's not what I want. And I know you consider them trash anyway. Yeah.
You're discarding the birds anyway.
You're getting rid of them. Like give them to me, donate them. And so it was either they wanted money for them, or they thought I was like undercover PETA and I was trying to get in so I could get something on them and expose them. So I was like, nope, I can be an animal lover and not an extremist. That's not to say that I don't respect a wide variety of people's views. Just in terms of how we operate secondhand, we will not go to those lengths. Like that's just not what we're going to do. So.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Because you're making a difference, and you really are. And now you went and saw something via the internet, right? And then you were able to make that change and create that lane here, especially in your area. And that's just commendable. So, man, we appreciate what you're doing. Definitely.
Yeah. And the cool thing is like, because I mean, I've been working with the egg producers now for like, I think about 8 years is what
Mhm.
it's been, like from very beginning to now.
Hmm.
I mean, they know my chickens' names. They ask me how they're doing. They have made changes in the way that they do things,
Wow.
like, and anytime that I do something like this, or there's an article or anything goes, I always send it to them, because
Mm.
my big thing is like, here, I want you to see, that there are people who believe in what we're doing, and they can't thank you directly, but just see that you allowing us to do this is, it's doing good.
Definitely doing good. I mean, I've rescued half my flock is rescue chickens,
Mhm.
and you could tell right away which ones are the rescues because they like
Right.
me more than the ones I brooded.
Yes. That's what I try, because we've encountered people, and I don't think I can curse on here, so
It's fine. This is
okay.
it's for everybody, but it's a real conversation. So it's fine.
It's one of the less bad words, right? Like,
Yeah, there we go.
I'll just say, I kid you not. I have been told by people that they didn't want spent hens because they're dirty, they're icky. Instead, they wanted Martha Stewart chickens.
We've reached that part of the show where we hook you up with some insider information. And this week, it's all about eating, pet, and pasture. And I got a 20% discount code for you. As farmers, we know the love and care it takes to raise happy and healthy animals. So choose the best when it comes to bedding, premium cut Timothy hay, and treats for your furry and feathery friends. So if you're looking for super absorbent hemp bedding or nesting pads for your laying ladies, look no further than Eaton Pet and Pasture. Check them out right now at EatonPetandPasture.com. And first-time shoppers get a 20% discount by typing in Reec at checkout. That's REEC at checkout. Now let's get back to another excellent adventure. Okay, well, that gave me an eye roll.
I know. I was like, Martha Stewart, and they're like, yeah, those fancy ones, the ones that are all pretty, and I'm like, okay, then you're definitely not our kind of people.
That's
No,
chicken
thanks.
crap.
And it's right, and it's okay, and we tell people, like, we understand we are not for everybody, right? Like,
That's fine.
we are looking for very specific types of adopters. Like, first and foremost, you have to see these girls as pets, right? And you have to want to give them a better life than what they had before. So if you just want like fancy chickens because they're pretty, and you want colorful eggs, but maybe you want to add some white ones, then sure, these girls are for you, but you consider them pets. But if you are strictly focused on just wanting pretty chickens, or you're like, well, I'll get them and I'll let them free range, I don't care what happens to them, like, nah, maybe we're not for you. Because like, literally, there are tons of other places that it's very easy to get chickens, and you can start with chicks, or you can get older birds. Like, you can even order them online, like, so we are very upfront about the type of people we're looking for. And we work with people too to make sure they know what comes with adopting these birds.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. And like you said, there's a lane for other people to shop in until they drop.
Yep.
But for you and your nonprofit and the 501c3, this is what it's about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why, before we go forward, how can people support you guys with this incredible work you're doing?
I mean, I always tell people one of the easiest and free things to do is follow us on social media and share our content, right? It's easy, it's free. So we are on Instagram, Facebook, and we're still trying to figure out TikTok.
Aren't we all?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know, but we try. Give us credit for that. And then we also have like, if people want to donate, start fundraisers, like on Instagram, Facebook. We have our PayPal giving fund. That's nice because then PayPal doesn't take any fees. And then there's stuff like Venmo. We're on Venmo. We don't have, I guess, a ton of options available, just because there are so few of us that have to maintain all of this, and that's on top of full-time jobs and having families and flocks of our own. But really just continuing to spread the word. Adopt from us. If you're in the area and you have space in your coop, consider adopting some birds from us. Because even then, when you get those birds, it gets people asking questions, right? Because then you start sharing, or if you've adopted from us, share stories, share pictures, tag us, so that people know where these birds came from. And ideally, someday we would love to have like a permanent space where we could, have more of these birds and keep them for longer, instead of it being kind of this rush that we get them, we help them for a couple weeks, and then we place them in their homes. Yeah. But I mean, it's not like everyone's throwing at their money at us, save the chickens. No, people are a lot more focused on cats and dogs. And so it's hard. And that's why we do the things like take a chicken out in the stroller, because then that gets people, rethinking, oh, well, I see this animal actually enjoying itself. My cat or my dog would do this. Like, yeah. I know I'm not trying to be controversial with it, but I just got tired of answering the question. I actually have a shirt that says, before you ask, no, I do not eat my chickens. Would you eat your dog? Right. And it's not to try and, start a fight. It's to kind of put out there up front, because people always love to ask that question. It's either like, you eat your chickens? Right. Like, would you eat your dog? Right. Like, no. And that's more just to try and put them in that thinking that, well, no, because it's a pet.
It's a pet. These are pets. Yeah. These have names. We understand their personality. They're not eating scraps and low grade food. We're giving them the best stuff to give them the highest quality of life. So they become thinking. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's like almost having a macaw or a parrot. This is a pet.
Like, especially when you think about the money that people put into those kind of birds, right? And I mean, those birds can live a long, long time.
Yes.
But I mean, let's say it's end of days, right? Even then, and you're desperate, like, would you eat your dog? Probably not, because they've been your or if you absolutely had to admit, it would be a struggle. Yeah. It would be really hard.
At least this pet will give you eggs.
Right.
Yeah. You know what? You said something way earlier too, that you've got this Blossom. You said was 5 now?
She will be 7.
7
in December.
So
yeah.
Yep. So
I've had her for almost 5 years.
5 years, and she was 2 already.
Yeah.
So you've got a bird who is our family now, right? Because she's come from this terrible situation. Well, not the best situation, where she would have been discarded at 2. You've given her more years on her life, almost 7 years old. You're quadrupling, tripling, doubling these birds' life expectancy. How does that make you feel as a person, a rescue person that had this vision?
It makes me feel great. I mean, obviously the longer we have them, when something happens, it's harder. Yeah. But I really do try and focus my efforts on finding the keys, right? To helping these girls live longer, right? How do we deal with reproductive issues? Because let's be honest, right? It doesn't matter whether it's an ex-commercial spent hen or it's just a backyard bird, right? It could be one of those fancy breeds. They run into issues with egg laying, right?
Yeah, either egg bound or having fairy
prolapse, infections, soft shell eggs. An ovary just decides, because they only have one working ovary to start with, right? So if that one goes, all right, now they're acting like a rooster. And these are things that could either be environmental, it could be because of an accident. It's out of your control, but it could happen whether they're a commercial hen or just a regular backyard bird. And so trying to get people to realize that a lot of these issues are going to happen no matter what is hard. So I do focus my efforts on just chickens in general. What are things that we can do to make sure that their health, is good, and that we can try and prevent these issues? And that's the type of stuff that I try and share with people, so that any chicken, all of their birds, can live past that point that most people think is normal. Because I mean, truthfully, chickens could live for 10 plus years, right? Like, I honestly believe that a lot of the reason the life expectancy is lower is because of predators,
Yeah.
right? Like,
I mean, everything knows chickens are
everything,
delicious.
right? Everything wants chickens.
Hmm.
And so it's teaching people how to prepare and fight against every kind of predator that is out there, and that includes humans. Like when
Yeah.
COVID first hit, we had people in our neighborhood getting their chickens stolen. So I was like, all right, yep, time to prepare for the human predators too. Like,
People stealing
it's
chicken.
Fort
That's
Knox.
crazy.
Yeah.
We didn't
I
have
I
chicken
I
theft here,
I
but that's
hope
crazy.
I hope it was only for the egg
Hmm.
component, but you never know.
Yeah.
But there were a few people that also have turkeys in the neighborhood, and their turkeys were stolen as well.
Yikes.
Yeah. And it's just
Yikes.
because people freaked out, you
Yeah.
know,
Didn't know what was going to happen.
yeah. And I'm like, so I just tell people, prepare if you know how these predators think and you can try and, you know, combat that. I think
Yeah.
right there, even that's a big chunk of the life expectancy problem.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Having predator protection. Let's go into that. So how do you protect? I saw you have a cool coop. I saw the with the your feeder, you have the step down feeder that definitely helps with rodents and everything like that. But like, what are some of the things that you do to protect your coop?
So actually our backyard, and this is nice.
Mhm.
And I know it's not doable for everyone, but so we have like a concrete base
Mm.
so that anything that tries to dig, like, good
Yes.
luck, it's not happening.
Mhm.
And then we have the perimeter, it's about, I don't know, maybe 5 inches high. And then we just fill that. It's a big sandbox, right?
Okay.
So we
Cool.
fill it in with sand. And then we have multiple run areas that are filled with what's it called? The wood chips.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so all of that, I mean, it's like a big litter box. You know, I go in and I keep it
Mhm.
cleaned out. But that right there, that prevents all the digging animals from getting in. And
Right.
then we have the hardware cloth around the
Mhm.
outside, which also helps keep the mice out and the
Mhm.
rats. So those smaller things, because I mean, I even worry about mice because people in the neighborhood poison their mice. And I know
Yeah.
chickens
And
eat mice.
they will.
So I don't want them in there either, because then my chickens are getting poisoned.
Yeah.
So I have stuff up like vanilla to try and keep the flies and other, you know, pesky bugs away. Free range time is always supervised, and I actually sit outside like a crazy lady. I have my son used to have those the sports, like the plastic bat for the wiffle ball or something.
Yeah.
Or t-ball. And he grew out of that, doesn't use it anymore. And that thing's heavy. It's hard plastic. I sit out there and I'm like hitting it, waiting for some bird of prey to come try something. I'm like, don't, because I've had bald eagles flying over my house, eyeballing my chickens.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. And
I'm
that's
like,
an 8-foot wingspan. That's
I'm like, come on. You screamed at me, I'm gonna scream right back. Like, come on. You know, I dare you. Try me.
locked and loaded.
Yes. And I'm just like, I don't play. Like, I will punch a bird out of the sky to save my chickens. Like, because in the city we have everything. We have coyotes, foxes,
stray dogs,
HOA
HOA presidents,
dogs that are there.
Right.
Every bird of prey you can imagine: skunks, possums, raccoons, weasels. I mean, yeah. So I have cameras. I know not everyone can do that, but being able to turn that on and yell at something even helps.
That's
true. So I have the lights that go on at night. Not the ones that look like the eyeballs, but it's like a rotating light that switches from green to red. Okay. And it just constantly keeps moving. And that really seems to help. Plus motion lights the raccoons and stuff don't like that at all.
Yeah, they don't like human element. Most predators that have been around people don't like people. So raccoons, possums, and foxes really don't like people. So that helps. That absolutely helps.
These ones are bold in our neighborhood, though. Like, there was one fox that just rolled right up. This person had like one of those benches outside on their porch, and the fox just rolled up there and snuggled in with the pillows. And was like, "Hey, I'm here." But if I had space for it, we don't have space, but if I had space, another thing that I would do, you know, those big like blow up guys that you see at the used car lots. I would have one of those. And then I've also seen, it's like these, they almost look like crows, but they like blow in the wind, and you can put them up in different places. Cause I know the birds of prey don't like the crows.
Yeah. We've got a Mr. Who owl. We've got an owl, a fake owl that sits on top of our coop, and its head rotates at night.
Yeah. We got to give them some glowing eyes. So they're
it's
like,
got reflective eyes. Yeah, it's got some reflective eyes. So anytime it catches any light, it looks like a real owl outside. So
okay.
Spring has sprung, and guess what? That means chick season is here. So if you're looking to start your flock, add to your flock, or maybe add a few ducks, chickens, or geese, My Pet Chickens is the website for you. And if you're just getting started, they even have a tool to help pick the perfect poultry for your backyard flock. Check them out today at mypetchicken.com. Right now, you can get $10 off when you join the SMS Club. MyPetChicken.com. Raise fun, happy, and healthy chickens, from live poultry to coops and supplies. My Pet Chicken has everything you need to start, grow, and maintain your backyard flock. Shop today. MyPetChicken.com.
Yeah, because that's something else that's on my list. I hear you have to move them though, or else the other birds catch on.
Fake. Yeah.
And that's the problem. We don't have space to like keep moving it because it's so small in our backyard.
Gotcha. But you guys are doing an incredible amount of work for having a limited amount of space. So I want to commend you on that, because you're making a huge difference, even with just, in fact, the parts of getting the word out and just putting everything up on your social media. It gets people to searching and finding out, what are you doing? Like, and they're like, why have a chicken rescue? Oh, right. I didn't know that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the information you guys put out is really key. So we appreciate that. And
I think too, something that's really important to keep in mind when you do this kind of work, and I will say it till I'm blue in the face until the day I die, it is very important to know your limits. Otherwise, it is so easy to get burnt out and want to give up. So what I mean when I say that, right, is, the groups over in the UK are doing thousands and thousands of birds at a time, and that's great. But they have worked their way up to a point where they have the resources for that, right? Correct, they have a team, they have everything that they need. It's important for us to know what we can handle, because if we asked the egg producer for 5,000 birds, they would gladly give them to us. But for us, it's more important to ensure that the birds that are in our care, we want them to get 110% of us and what we have to give. We want to make sure that they all can be seen by the vet if needed, that they're all properly taken care of, and that we are not hurting, right? But if you add more birds to that, that's more potential problems, which costs more money. And then now, we saved 5,000 birds, but they only got 20 to 30% of what we have to give, you know? Right. So I would rather take those smaller numbers.
Quality over quantity.
Right. Know that they got quality care, and then went to their homes, instead of just being able to brag about, oh, well, I saved so many. Right. And to me and our organization, that is so incredibly important. And I really try to like hammer that home to other people too, when they feel like they want to give up or they feel like they haven't done enough. No, what you have done has been so important, because you actually gave a shit, you know, like you weren't just out there trying to get attention and brag about your numbers. You put everything into saving this animal, or these few animals, and that is worth so much more.
You really hit your mission.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense. I appreciate that sentiment too, because it's better to do a quality on less than do a whole bunch, and then you really only gave it a small amount of effort.
Yeah, and we can't see it necessarily at the time, but keep in mind, all those small things, they add up. You know, so if you can convince more people to make these small changes, then it will add up and it will make a difference.
Gotcha. It definitely does. And it can get expensive too. So it makes so much sense to make sure that you're caring for the animals. You won't have a chicken living to be 7 or 8 years old if you're not doing, the best thing for them health wise and stuff like that, which comes to some of our next questions. Nutrition. Is there any things that you use nutrition wise on there? Because you're getting ex producers who are pumping out eggs, and that was their job to pump out eggs. So then you're going to have a deficiency in some places. Are there anything special you use or any feed that you kind of like?
So I will say when we first get the birds, we do use feather fixer just because they are in that molting state. Aside from that, I mean, our adopters use a wide range of feeds and no one's ever had any issues.
Gotcha.
I do know what we do when we first get them, and this is something I kind of do for my flock anyway, and I encourage adopters to carry on. So we do added probiotics, right?
Okay.
Because they are more susceptible to coccidiosis since they've never been outside. So we hit hard with the probiotics to really give them the best chance. And we do actually mix in some medicated chick feed with their regular feed. And we throw in the oyster shell. We actually mix that in with the feed too because they're so depleted in calcium.
Right.
Vitamin B12 and the other vitamin Bs. We do that. We do electrolytes, and we love our oregano oil in the water. That is amazing for so many things. Electrolytes we do because they're in a time of stress. But for me, for my personal flock, I kind of reserve that more for the hotter months, just when they need it more.
Gotcha.
Aside from that, the other stuff is kind of what I do anyway. I do dabble in other supplements. I don't know if everyone, like, I don't use it as a replacement for veterinary care or anything. This is more of like to help.
Gotcha.
But like I use like Chinese skullcap in my flock because that helps with Merrick's. So like Merrick's is everywhere.
Yeah.
And your flock is going to be susceptible. So that is something that kind of keeps it dormant if they do come in contact with it.
Okay.
And it's really easy to incorporate into the feed and your regimen. So stuff like that, I'm a big supporter of because it's not going to hurt them to add it. And it can potentially protect them from issues that are known to be big problems.
Makes so much sense. You just schooled us there. I appreciate that. I know some stuff I'm going to be stealing.
No, Chinese skullcap has also been shown to fight against like bird flu. I mean, all these viruses, these things that are out there that are easily spread. And bird flu is a big one for me because there is no vaccine for that.
Right.
So, I mean, all my birds are vaccinated for Merrick's. So I have that protection, but there are so many strains, right? You can't guarantee that they have protection against it all.
Right.
And
the
then,
viruses are going to mutate.
Right. And bird flu, Newcastle, all these kind of more scary ones that if it's found in your flock, they tell you you're going to have to get rid of all your birds. This Chinese skullcap helps with that. And so I'm like, all right, prevention, because prevention is much better than dealing with the heartbreaking decision of what would have to happen if you tested positive for any of those things.
Right. That's true. That makes so much sense. How do you implement that Chinese skull cap? Like, how does it come? Where would we find it?
So you can find it on Amazon.
Okay.
But I do tell people, and I mean, I have links and stuff for it that I could share with you if you wanted, for reputable places to buy from. I always, when it comes to stuff like this, I always ask for like a certificate of like
Authenticity.
Yes.
So
like I want to see numbers. I want to see things were tested because I don't just want to order stuff from overseas. Who knows what they could be filling it with.
Right.
So I always ask for stuff like that. That's why I'm a little iffy on the Amazon. There is stuff there that is good. But no, I don't have it with me here, but I can get you some links for reputable places to get that. And most people, they mix it in with the feed. They do kind of like a mash. Me, what I do is I actually take those little empty capsules and I put enough dose for each bird, and then I give them like a weekly dose, and they think it's a treat, so they just take it from me.
Oh,
it's
of
super
course,
easy. So I've worked it too. And honestly, that's what I do with most of my meds for any of my birds now, because they think that little capsule is a treat. So whether it's liquid or powder, I just put it in there and they take it. It's like a genius little hack that people like. And even if you have to force it into their beak, it goes down so much easier and you don't have any risk of aspiration, especially when it's liquid. It's just easier. Yeah. Do it. Okay. Have some of those on hand.
Now we know what to do with that. We appreciate that. What is something that you've recently borrowed, maybe from another person? Like, I'm about to borrow that whole spill from you.
Something that I've recently borrowed.
Just maybe a tip or a trick.
I know. I'm trying to think. I don't know if there's anything I've borrowed. Like, I can't think of anything. I'm like, I'm sorry.
No, it's no problem.
I mean, I would say I've seen, okay. And I don't know who it was from because it was years ago, but that whole thing about the blow up guy.
Yeah,
right?
the wavy arm and
I saw that but this is someone who had like a huge field full of chickens and they were just free ranging. There was no fencing. And I was like, that is genius. Like, if I had the space for one of these things, like, I would love it. I would love to have something like this. But it's something that I have also felt important enough to share with people who do have the space for something like that, because I feel like it would truly work.
That makes sense. What's one thing that you use that you didn't expect? For me, it's zip ties. Like, I use zip ties on everything now.
Yes. I mean, I do. I use zip ties on a lot. Something, I have to say, those capsules.
Yep, there we go.
Those capsules. Because they seriously,
I would have never thought of that.
They work so, like, I think of all those years I spent giving my chickens medication, like, especially when it's liquid, and like freaking out that they were going to aspirate. And I was like, but this was here the whole time and it's so easy. Like, it's so much easier. So the capsules, little capsules.
Cool. That is definitely a new go-to. What is you guys go-to feed store up there?
So we have Tractor Supply.
Okay.
It's not close. I mean, we have a few. We have Tractor Supply, Orscheln's, At Home, and we have Rural King. And then we have a few like smaller feed stores that are more like mom and pop.
Yeah.
But for me, the one that has been, they've actually like been amazing and they've donated feed to us sometimes, is Tractor Supply.
Okay.
And they actually like share our information whenever people are like, I'm looking for chickens, but I don't want chicks. They're like, we know about this organization.
We know.
So we've gotten some adopters through them too. Yeah. Yeah.
That is awesome. What's one thing that has been, I guess, a plus for you owning and having these chickens that you didn't think was? I know for me, it's been like a thing for my mental health. It's helped a whole lot with me just being a better person, and having less stress. I'm out there doing the work, but it doesn't feel like work sometimes. What about yourself?
So for me, definitely the therapy aspect. Like, so from my time in the military, I suffer with PTSD, anxiety, depression. Like, those are my big three. So really just knowing that, I mean, because my kids are kind of at an age now where like, they don't need mom. Mom's not cool. Like, we don't want her. So my chickens come in, right? Because I got to get up every day for them. Like, they rely on me. My kids are pretty independent. My chickens, even though they want to be independent, they still need me to survive. So that comes into play a lot. But even just like things as simple as taking Blossom to vote or taking her out in the stroller, seeing people's faces light up, and especially kids, the first time they touch a chicken, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, even those small things, I am hoping that I am planting a seed in them young enough so that as they get older and they grow, they consider that, again, more than just cats or dogs can be amazing pets, and that will teach them compassion, and then they end up being better adults. Like, even just seeing the things like that is very rewarding for me and feels like I'm making a difference, because they would not have encountered a chicken in this way otherwise, and consider that, oh wow, these actually might be good pets.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. We have our Excellent Adventures petting program. We take the chickens and ducks and things and different animals to schools. And
Yep.
when those kids touch them and see them, it opens up a whole nother lens for them. And then on top of that, they won't be irresponsible owners. It's less likely they'll be irresponsible owners later if they decide to go down that path.
And see, so we do a program called Chooks with Books, right?
Okay.
And that's similar. Like, we take the chickens, we do a chicken themed story, and then afterwards the kids can hang out with the chickens. They can pet them, hold them, whatever they're comfortable with. And then we do like either some coloring or a little craft. And seeing these kids, right? Like, by the end, I mean, I'm sure some of the parents hate us, but all these kids want chickens, right?
Right.
And so it's like, well, it's not that we're trying to get chickens in every home, but we just want the kids thinking differently about, how they treat animals. Yeah. Even it's as simple as that. And so for me, I want to be able to get that program, into more places, because I feel like, and you get it, you've seen it, I think just at a different level, it would change so much more, because we want our kids to grow up being better than us, right? Like, right. And have access to things that we didn't necessarily get. And so that's my hope, is that just even with these kind of programs, we can create better potential future adults, because I already feel like they already have such a, it's like, so for example, right? Like, my daughter has already determined, she's like, no, I don't want kids. And I'm like, but what? And it's only the only reason, and she has stuck to this, is because she's like, the future of this world, she's like, I don't want to have kids that I'm going to set up for failure. And I'm like, that just broke my heart. Like, yeah,
it's just a very morbid way of thinking, that you get that way from what she sees. So
and that's what we're just surrounded with all the time. And so for me, like, my chickens really are like this little safe haven, this safe space. I mean, yeah, sometimes sad things happen and we lose them and they get sick, and I want to give up sometimes, but I just keep reminding myself, it's for them. It's for them. It's for them. They bring all these people happiness.
Yeah. No, that's true. I think that's the best note we could leave it on. The chickens bringing people happiness. You're doing that. You're doing a great thing, and you're bringing the chickens happiness with Second Hen'd. I love the name too. A lot of chicken puns. I'm a chicken pun person.
Yes.
So I really appreciate that. We thank you so much for your time, for joining us today on Excellent Adventures.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Excellent Adventures, powered by BlackYard Chickenz. Now, if you think you want to raise your own backyard flock, here's the site for you, BlackYardChickens.com. We make entertaining videos about raising baby chicks from scratch. You know what I mean by from scratch, right? Or maybe you want to learn how to take care of your own big chickens or hens and get those fresh eggs, building a coop or buying a coop, having the necessary things inside that coop to get great egg production. You'll learn a lot of the neat tricks I've picked up along the way from other chicken enthusiasts, and you can get pretty eggs just like those. So follow us on social media and check us out on our YouTube channel.